And watch these two decks in action. Greg Matthews on your left, Forrest Boire on your right. Eldrazi Taxes versus Elves here in round number 12 from Indianapolis. I love a good brew. This is a weird Modern tournament, man. Caves of Koilos is where we're going to start here for round 12. A Pendelhaven into a Nettle Sentinel here for Forrest Boire. For Matthews, a land. It's one of those MPS lands. I haven't seen those in a while. And now a Tidehollow Sculler.
So I think one of the critical cards for Matthews in this matchup is Wasteland Strangler. He's going to need a mixture of pressure and removal to keep Elves off balance and end the game before cards like, the card advantage elements of the Elves deck become overwhelming. Tidehollow Sculler is one of the better cards here, as it's a form of disruption and it's a clock and it's an enabler for Wasteland Strangler.
Took Heritage Druid. So that thing's gone. There's still a pretty good hand over there for Boyer, however. He's got an Elvish Arc Druid, I believe another Nettle Sentinel, Cavernous Souls, all that stuff. Here comes Nettle Sentinel. Predictably no blocks here from Greg Matthews. I do like the little combo Wasteland Strangler and Tidehollow Sculler.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty sweet.
How do you feel about Relic of Progenitus, Wasteland Strangler?
Combo.
We already know about Thought-Knot Seer, Wasteland Strangler.
Another combo.
What about Flicker Wisp?
Another combo. Yeah.
Little clunky, but that is sweet if you get that going.
Here's Wasteland Strangler. Gonna take out the Heritage Druid and now the Nettle Sentinel as well. See, with Wasteland Strangler, and there's the battlefield. You may put a card an opponent owns from exile, which Tidehollow Sculler does.
Smooth. Into the graveyard. If you do, target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. What's also nice about this, besides it being a clock and a form of disruption, is now Matthews has to care a lot less about trading off his Tidehollow Sculler in combat because the card's not going to come back to Boyer's hand.
Yep. Giltleaf Palace will bring in a Dearman's Elite, which means an Elf token will be joining the battlefield in just a moment. One of the things, however, that Elves is always good at is just putting a bunch of creatures on the battlefield.
It's hard to pick apart with just removal spells, which is why Matthews also needs to be pressuring him the whole time.
Yeah. Elvish Visionary came into the red zone. No blocks there from the Wasteland Strangler thanks to the Pendelhaven. So Matthews falls down to 16.
But really, Matthews' threats, they all fit the bill here. You have Tidehollow Sculler, Wasteland Strangler, Thought-Knot Seer. Pretty much everything he brings to the table is some form of pressure plus disruption, which is a good mixture to have against Elves, assuming that you don't have sweepers to try to manage the game that way.
Here comes Tidehollow Sculler and Wasteland Strangler. Now, this is an interesting tag, right? Because this Elf can jump in front of the Tidehollow Sculler, and then Pendelhaven can do its thing. And that's exactly what's going to happen, so 3 damage will come through. Maybe this is what Greg Matthews wants to have happen. We'll see. Matthews will take a point. Another Sculler. There's a Nykthos, an Elvish Arc Druid, and a Nettle Sentinel. So the Arc Druid's going to go down there. So now the question, if you're Forrest, is am I going to be able to draw one of my payoff cards? So we're talking Court of Calling, Lead the Stampede, Collective Company, stuff like that.
Those cards would be great to draw here, but the thing about the Elf deck is it can be fine just kind of damage racing. Matthews' deck does not put on all that much pressure. So Pendelhaven plus being able to go wide plus 2 power creatures that line up fine with Matthews' attackers and blockers. Even if he doesn't find a payoff card, he's not out of this game. Of course, finding an Elvish Arch Druid or a Collective Company would make this much easier.
Here come the beatdowns. There's a block. I think we'll see a Path to Exile here.
Probably, yeah. Well, that's a very dodgy block otherwise.
Yeah, not the best one there if there's no path. Dismember, some sort of removal spell. Basic Forest there from Forrest. So it'll search up with the Path to Exile. So after that, we'll see what comes in the second main phase. Now remember here, this Elves deck that Forrest is playing, he does have black mana in the deck, and that is mostly for Shaman of the Pack. A couple sideboard cards as well. But it does have a bit of a combo feel to it at times.
And the Elves deck can play in multiple different respects depending on the matchup. Compared to Legacy, I would say that this plays like a combo deck less often and a beatdown deck more often, but both decks in both formats do a mixture of both, depending on the matchup and circumstance.
There's Shaman of the Pack. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to the number of elves you control. So it was for 3. Here's another Sculler. Heritage Druid and Nettle Sentinel, I believe, are the cards here in Forrest's hand. So take the Druid. Is there a big follow-up? Matthews is just getting kind of chipped away here, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think he has to hang back on defense, especially if he's going down to 5 now to play that Godless Shrine untapped.
Here's a Spell Skite. Is he going to keep attacking here? I'd be surprised.
I would have preferred attacking with the Wasteland Strangler first, because before all these plays, I think Boire definitely doesn't block, and now because Matthews has the works gummed up a little bit, maybe Boire trades with the Wasteland Strangler instead.
Yep.
He can't do anything with the Tidehollow Scullers. That's the big problem here, because I suppose he can trade off the one with a Heritage Druid under it. That's not too threatening. But the one that's containing an Elvish Archdruid, that can't trade.
No, that can't die.
So
you can't give him that back.
That's stuck until he finds a way to process that card away.
Visionary going to draw Forrest a card.
I mean, this is not a bad spot for Matthews to just sort of hang back here.
Forrest is not hanging back at all. And Boyer's coming into the red zone here with some pretty good attacks.
I mean, this attack here forces Matthews to either take some damage or trade one of his Tidehollow Scullers off. So it's a pretty productive attack. And again, the one with the Archdruid can't block. And even getting back the Heritage Druid is not innocuous here, because a lot of these attacks are being enabled by Pendelhaven. So getting back another 1/1 opens up kind of the same attacks the following turn.
Pendelhaven's going to pump that elf token into a 2/3. So 2 damage is going to come across. Tidehollow Sculler is going to trade with Shaman of the Pack, giving Forrest his Heritage Druid back. And now there's Nettle Sentinel. I believe Shaman of the Pack should be off for the battlefield because of the block with the Tidehollow Sculler. Yeah, so that should be gone. They've fixed that. Matthews, this is an Elves game that we don't see a lot of. Ghost Quarter's not bad, actually. Here's Eldrazi Displacer. I would prefer to keep the Ghost Quarter up to take care of the Pendelhaven.
I think so, too. I mean, I guess the logic behind not using the Ghost Quarter at this point is it's very hard for Boire to now attack with his 1/1s backed up by Pendelhaven, because Matthews now has a 3/3. So he gets to swallow up one of the 1/1s.
Sure.
I still think on the balance it's probably better just getting the Pendelhaven off the battlefield.
Here comes some blocks. Now the Tidehollow Sculler is forced to block. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, that's the issue with not using it here is, you know, if you do use the Pendelhaven, if you get rid of the Pendelhaven, you can fall to 1 here and not commit the Sculler to combat. In fact, it doesn't matter. You can, in fact, he doesn't have a Pendelhaven anymore, so the Sculler can now just block 1-power creatures
very
by
safely.
itself.
It can't do that now, however, so Pendelhaven's going to pump the Heritage Druid. It's going to take care of the Sculler, which means Elvish Archdruid is going to head back. But a bunch of creatures are going to die here.
And I guess, you know, the argument for this as well from Matthew's side is, well, now he has Displacer against Archdruid, which contains a lot of it. He can tap it to prevent the mana, and he's got the size in play to prevent the Crusade from mattering all that much.
Time to draw. This becomes a game all about... I mean, Displacer is going to try to take this thing over, right? There's a Shambling Event. Displacer can displace the token to start.
Yep.
And then go from there. I mean, he's trying to hang on for dear life right now. There's a Forest. I suppose Archdruid is turning off the Pendelhaven right now.
Yeah.
Here come the Knuckleheads.
I mean, this to me, everything is lethal, so I think you just have to let the token through and use Displacer on the token.
I don't want to use it on the Elvish Visionary.
Yeah, the other issue with this is lethal, so you got to do something.
Oh, here's Collected Company. That was a good draw.
If you get rid of the Elvish Archdruid, suddenly Pendelhaven's back in the equation for lethal.
Yep.
You don't want to be displacing a Visionary, as you mentioned.
It's going to displace.
Oh, okay. This is much the same outcome here.
Well, but does he have something to remove to actually strangle something? That's the thing, right? Like if he's got nothing to remove to -3 something, then that's the issue.
I mean, if he displacered it, I assumed he had something.
Yeah, I mean, I hope.
Pierce, the answer is no. All right, now this is just
with Azuri showing up.
Yeah, this is easy mode now.
This is nonsense now. None of this even matters. And that's going to be more than enough to get it done. So Forrest Boyer's going to win game number 1 here over Greg Matthews. Elves up a game here over Eldrazi Taxes. Though, for what I felt like Greg had the tools to win that game.
I mean, the Ghost Quarter play, I think that I would have gotten rid of it. There's some justification for not doing it because he's 1 land away from having double Displacer activation, which might be better than getting the Pendelhaven off the battlefield. Also, Pendelhaven's legendary, so if you blow up the Pendelhaven and he just draws another one, it's kind of the worst case scenario. But I agree. I think there was a way to manage his life total in those blocks a little bit better than he did.
To the sideboards we're going to go, so we will start with Greg Matthews, his 2 Stony Silence, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Pithing Needle, 2 Core Firewalker, and a bunch of 1-ofs here in Reality Smasher, Sunlance, Spell Skite, Eidolon of Rhetoric, we don't see that one much, a Warship, a Seagate Wreckage, and a Burrington Forge Tender.
I would bring in the 1 copy of Sunlance here, and I think that I would bring in the 1 copy of Worship as well.
Worship could be a game ender.
I suppose, does Shaman of the Great Pack cause life loss?
It is life loss.
Then I would not bring in Worship.
Okay.
That's too easy of a workaround.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
It's probably just the Sunlance.
For Forrest on his side, 3 Kitchen Finks, 3 Quarter Calling, 2 Fracturing Gust, 2 Scavenging Ooze, 1-ofs here in, ooh, I like this, Elvish Champion, Spellskite, Malaria, Reclamation Sage Eviscerator, so he can backdoor into the combo, which is awesome.
I don't mind trying to backdoor in the combo against a deck that's, I mean, most of Matthew's ways of controlling the battlefield, it's not really with removal, it's just sort of managing combat. So I like backdooring the combo here quite a bit. Yeah, I would just bring in the Chords, the Elvish Champion, and the combo. That's where I would go.
Well, but yeah, a little bit of the combo here. I like the Court of Calling package in the sideboard. So sometimes with Elves you see Court of Calling in the main deck, but you're going to find for actually Forrest's deck, he's got 4 main deck Collective Confidence and 4 main deck Lead the Stampede, and the Chords are actually in the board for all of this stuff.
Right, and it's not like having Court of Calling in your sideboard is a bad thing just kind of in general. You would bring in a lot of the slower matchups. Being able to situate yourself as a combo deck for the matchups where maybe combat is off the table for whatever reason, which it might be in this matchup, depending on what Matthew's draw looks like. It's a really nice option to have, and I think he should bring it in here.
Matthews will be on the play for game number 2, so while these players sideboard and shuffle up, we're going to talk about Season 2 of the SCG Tour, which started in Columbus with our Columbus Invitational weekend, won, of course, by Max McVitie, which is why he has a clue token that was debuted this weekend. Then Milwaukee, which was won by Obzon Company, and there are no copies of that in day 2 here in Indianapolis. We do Grand Prix Charlotte a week off the SCG Tour, and then we go to Atlanta.
Yeah, start off June with some standard opens in Atlanta and then Orlando, a modern open at the end of June in Dallas. After that, we have our Legacy Open in Worcester, Massachusetts, standard open in Columbus, standard in Baltimore, the regional championships August 6th. We'll have more information about that event as we get a little bit closer, modern in Syracuse, and then we close out Season 2 of the SCG Tour in New Jersey for the Invitational, August 19th through the 21st.
Now, with all of our events during Season 2 of the SCG Tour and SCG Tour weekends, we've got playmats to give away, but we're doing a little bit different this time. So for standard opens and classics, you can get Sigarda, that playmat. For our modern one, like this one this weekend, we've got Ghost Quarter, and then for our legacy opens and classics, we've got Thalia, Garden of Thraben. So you come to an SCG Tour weekend, you play in the associated event, and you get the playmat that goes along with it. Standard is Sigarda, modern is Ghost Quarter, and legacy is Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Free exclusive playmats available here on Season 2 of the SCG Tour as we get ready for game number 2 of round 12 here between Greg Matthews and Forrest Boyer. Eldrazi Taxes and Elves, more copies of those decks than Obzon Company here this weekend. Not very many aggressive decks. I'm curious how this metagame breakdown and what wins this tournament is going to affect Modern Weekend next weekend. I did not expect this metagame at all.
Yeah, it's been weird. I think a lot of this is just a function of Ancestral Vision coming off, slowing things down a little bit, and giving more breathing space for some strategies that play outside of turn 4 to thrive.
Tell you what, Adam Bowman makes top 8 of this tournament. We'll take a long look at Slivers. I am interested in that deck.
Looks like it's really fun to play and brew with.
It's very my speed. I like creatures like Vile. You got really good mana.
Sliver cycling.
Yeah, the homing sliver in the sideboard is awesome. I'm sure we'll see more of him this weekend, that's for sure. He's
Collected company into a weird mixture of keywords.
he's 10-1 right now. Think about that. He's 10-1. I think maybe see a little crash course for him in a good old Ryan Overturf. Maybe on the way.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know how Grixis Delver lines up against the old sliver strategy.
I wouldn't begin to speculate.
Yeah. Seems pretty tough. Both players are going to take a look at their opening hands here. Greg Matthews again will be on the play with his Eldrazi Taxes deck. See if he's happy with the 7 cards he's looking at. Giving a long look right now. He says he will keep, as will Forrest Boire. We're underway. Caves of Koilos is where Matthews will start. For Boire and with the Elves deck, it's always tricky about which 1-mana spell you want to start with, but he's going to start off with a Llanowar Elves here, off of Guiltleaf Palace.
For a number of reasons, I think this deck is best served just focusing on get the mana online early on.
Tidehollow Sculler are going to reveal a hand here of Elvish Mystic, Heritage Druid, Direwin's Elite, Fracturing Gust. Don't see that one a ton. Along with Overgrown Tomb and a Forest.
Curious what's up with the Fracturing Gust.
Well, it'll kill Tidehollow Sculler.
Okay.
It does not kill a lot of other stuff, though. I guess it kills Aether Vial?
It's a lot of mana for something, I mean.
It's narrow. Might show up.
Does not kill Eldrazi.
No, it does not do that. I hope Forrest doesn't think it does that.
Yeah.
I'll say that. Here's the basic Forest. An Elvish Mystic and a Heritage Druid. And just pass the turn back. We know he's got Fracturing Gust in hand. Another land. Not sure what the draw step was there for Boire, however, as we head back over to Greg Matthews.
Who just drew an Aether Vial, so getting paid for that Gust.
That's right. Wasteland Strangler. Goodbye Heritage Druid.
That's a combo.
That is a combo. I do love that portion of this deck. I will say that.
Yeah, it does reliably enable Wasteland Strangler, and Tidehollow Sculler is one of the best cards you can pair with it.
Looks like Azuri is here. One of the best payoffs for this Elves deck is Azuri. Maybe the best payoff. This deck can generate a boatload of mana. Not hard to overrun your opponents twice with that +3/+3 and trample effect.
It's really the lone big Nykthos sink in this deck.
Yeah. There are 2 copies of Nykthos in Elves.
Looks like Matthew's hand here is a little clunky.
Flicker Wisp is here. Going to target the Tidehollow Sculler. Tidehollow Sculler is going to come back. Fracturing Gust is what he gets to take.
Bang.
Yep. Guiltleaf Palace just hanging out in the hand for Forrest Boire.
Standard classic players. Your parry.
But I think that Matthews needs to be attacking a bit more aggressively because he can't block. Azuri makes blocking so hard.
Yeah, it really does. Between regeneration and just +3/+3,
right.
Yeah. It's just not really a very good option.
You know, the Wasteland Strangler, for example, he can't block this turn, and if Boire doesn't activate Azuri, it can't attack next turn.
Yep.
So I think you have to tender that attack the previous turn.
No, with counter Souls, but if Nykthos does show up, you can just attack every turn, basically. Here comes the attack. Yeah, just take 1. Matthew's going to fall down to 14.
But Boyer's now in a pretty enviable spot where he can just get in a couple chip shots here and there, leave all this mana up to prevent Matthews from attacking on the ground on the way back, and eventually just get into a spot where he's overrunning on offense.
Yeah, the Flicker was having flying is a pretty big deal. And now here's Eldrazi Displacer. Time for Boire to untap. Looks like he picked up another land. Yeah, but land's not the end of the world because he gets to do this.
Yes, exactly. And he's not facing lethal on the way back. This attack is worth 9 with the Azuri, and 4 power in play is 13. So this is lethal. Matthews has to block, and his blocks are going to be chump blocks.
Yeah, that's the magic number right now. And Matthews is going to have to do the math to realize that, because if he says no blocks, he is very dead. Tadalasko is going to block there. Here's an Azuri activation. Everything will get +3/+3 and trample. So that's 4, 8. Let's make it 11. Fracturing Gust back in the grip. Matthews, I believe, should fall down to 2. So he head his way.
And look at the lands in play. Any black or white spell costs a life here, too, because he's only got Quetzalcoatl as colored mana sources.
That's part of what this deck has to do with this mana base, unfortunately, because it is playing Eldrazi spells. You need Quetzalcoatl to be able to operate.
So even trying to manage this game with Eldrazi Displacer is going to be really challenging because he doesn't have that much life to work with.
The round will begin in approximately 1 minute.
I think last turn, Matthews needed to just block in such a way to try to get the Azuri off the battlefield.
Some double blocking.
Because Boire didn't have enough mana to overrun and regenerate.
And it can't even regenerate itself.
Right.
That's the other thing, too. Regenerate any other elf. Flicker Wisp is going to come down. You get to attack, and then end of turn, you get the Flicker Wisp out the Azuri, so it'll come back on Forrest's end step. So that could actually just be the plan for a long time.
Well, you know, that's all of your mana, though. That's 3 mana a turn to be doing this.
Oh, I don't love it, but it does prevent him from dying.
He's got a 5-turn clock, and now even every random 1/1 that Boire draws is a big deal too, because Matthews has to commit all of his mana to containing Azuri, try to chip in the air with Flicker Wisp, and every point of damage it possibly gets him over the finish line.
Well, Path is nice. Path will take care of Azuri and allow Forrest to search up a land if he has one to search up. In the meantime, he did activate Azuri to give all his creatures +3/+3 and trample. But Path is a solution to the problem.
Well, that should put Matthews now on 1.
Yes. He had to pay for it with Caves of Koilos. Now here comes Flicker Wisp.
But doesn't Boire have Fracturing Gust as the last card in his hand? Yeah, this attack just kills him now because Fracturing Gust kills the Spellskite.
Yeah, it does kill the Spellskite, and it's a lethal attack. So Forrest Boire is going to win this match here over Greg Matthews, 2-0. Elves going to take care of Eldrazi Taxes, and for Forrest Boire in his Elves deck, 10-2.
The much maligned Fracturing Gust.
I've played against
Deal and lethal.
I've played against that one and lost that one a lot, so there is that.
Probably not in this particular matchup.
No, I've not played either side of this matchup, but I have lost to Fracturing Gust quite a bit. So that puts a close on this particular match.